during my daily life here in Kenya with our project. One of the projects we are doing is one forested area, which is crucial for the Mara River. So the Masai Mara, as you say, also the adjacent Serengeti. And so we have lost 100,000 hectares in the past 20 years. The 100,000 hectares lost on forest cover, we are losing not only crucial biodiversity, crucial species, but we are also putting and jeopardizing the survival of hundreds of thousands of people who live downstream, and they rely on water for their agriculture, therefore food production, or their daily life. So it is now a time where everybody should get on board. I know when I was at COP and the discussion, the free riding is appealing. So, everybody wants the other to start do the cleaning and start the working, because it sometimes is costly, sometimes it challenges the status quo. However, the issues and the problem are a planetary problem. And, I always say sometimes they cannot be profit if there is no other planet. So I think it's time to act. And we see it here in Africa a bit even stronger, since the population are more vulnerable. We have less infrastructure, and our infrastructure is not planned for these events, as the floods that we are seeing now. So, which are really now affecting the situation.
You're right, because what we also need to realize is that climate change doesn't go in one direction. You're having unusual cold, you have unusual floods, even in places where they're used to heat. But all of that is creating instability in the region, isn't it?
No. Yeah, definitely. No, and also it can fuel insecurity, it can fuel migration, it can fuel conflict for water. And I have seen another project we are doing, we are having the rangelands. So it's an arid and semi-arid area. And we have witnessed an increase on cattle rustling and movement and fights between adjacent community. Why? Because they are not fighting for they are not fighting for conquest. They are fighting for things that maybe somebody sitting, I don't know, in London or any other place, you think, wow, this is for granted for me. Water. They are fighting for pasture, mainly water and pasture, and they are fighting for their survival in a nutshell. So we have seen that, and we even lost some beneficiaries in this fight. So it is something that it's coming up, and it's already fueling instability and insecurity in many areas, fighting for resources, something as simple in a way as water, something that you drink from your glass.
Oh my goodness. So let's go ahead and get started, because it is the top of the quarter hour where we're going to get started. So let's go ahead and do that. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today's conversation is with Samuele Tini. He's going to talk about driving change and impact, transformation at the grassroots level. Let me introduce you briefly, but also Samuele has put in the chat his LinkedIn details. If you want to follow him, there's really good reasons to do so. Let me tell you why. Samuele is the regional manager and head of innovation at Manitesi. That's a nonprofit organization working on promoting social justice, human rights, and the environmental protection of key resources in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. He's also recently received his MBA from Warwick University Business School at the UK, and he also has a podcast, and it's one you're going to want to check out. So you should focus on his LinkedIn account there. And if you don't find it in the chat, be sure to look at the speaker notes, because his LinkedIn contact details are there as well. He hosts a sustainability journey podcast. And how often do you have that podcast? How often do you release a podcast?
Fantastic. Thank you. No, thank you for the question, Liz. It goes three times a month, 9, 19, and 29. And we have 3 range of guests. High-profile people, innovators and startups, and practitioners. So people, if you want to join, just listen and drop an email. I'm always looking for great guests. And this is my awareness line.
Thank you so much for letting us know that. And then without further ado, Samuele, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you so much, Liz, for the wonderful introduction. It's far better than my elevator speech and discussion and presentation. I don't know, I cannot say I just seen my slides because the app is giving me that. So I hope the people are, if you have any question, just make sure you can read it out for me. And let us start. Let us see if I can manage the technology. And it is working. Is working. Oh, why is not going to now? Okay. So as we see, I mean, if you like to make a donation as part of this summit, and of course we have this QR code that I'm putting there, I think is important, and the organizers have chosen UNICEF as partner and a way to donate. And then let me see if it's moving. And then who is this crazy guy with this, as I say, this with blue sweater calling you from Nairobi? And as my name is Samuele Tini, I have more than 20 years working in Africa. So I work in Kenya, in Tanzania, in South Sudan, in Mozambique, and in Bissau. I will try to share some insights, mainly from the Kenyan experience, which is the last one. But of course, some of the lessons are taken also from the other countries. I'm also, as I call myself a bridge, because I, as part of also my not-for-profit work, the one Let's discussed, I also have profit side, so I discuss a lot and I research a lot social businesses. I'm part of the B Academics and a B Leader and B Corp expert, and as said, so the social business for good, and I'm the host of Sustainability Journey. So this is my personal endeavor to share and give voice to change maker. So the wonderful organizer, they share with me a good path to present and try to discuss. And then why, when we were organizing, we said, what can be of value? And I started reflecting. Why is so important sustainability? Why is so important the SDG are so important? Why is important to act? And what can project management do? At the end of the day, we know we do a lot of talk. Sometimes we do awareness, we do it, but we need now action. And action comes in form of projects. As I mentioned before, and then if I'm sure everybody has read the book, The Project Management, that I recall it from my university. So, you know, that project is a problem scheduled for solution. So there are many definitions, but I like that because what we are trying to find is a solution. Are you trying to develop a new product? Are you trying to solve an issue, a specific issue? But then, why are you doing that? And I'm trying to put two things here. We are, as we were discussing before, we are living in a planetary crisis. And there are a few papers, we can put that, you know, is the famous one are Stephen 2005 and 2015, where they really discuss the scientific base or why we need to act. And everybody knows there is a planetary crisis, there is the rise of Anthropocene. What is Anthropocene? The era of man, where man is becoming an active force of shaping, I would say now, wrong way, the balances of our planet, as I say, the growing imbalances, and our entire life support system, the one that we have seen, the tipping points, are crumbling, what Let's discuss. Therefore, what we need also to change more. What we need to change even more? We need to change what I call from a model that from extractive to regenerative. We have not run a pool of the people that are listening to us, but I'm sure you are spanning from different area and different sector, from the not-for-profit to the profit. Maybe there are some people in government, some people in academia. The base, especially for companies, it is to change from a model that is extractive, the famous, I think everybody has learned in their MBA or work in economy, the theory of the farm, 1976, or I've read at least Milton Friedman, 1970, the shareholder, to a narrative model, a model that brings together all the stakeholders, and of course, the communities and the people, as also the work that we are trying to do in every world, and especially in the work we are doing with our project. But the question could be, what if we can use as reference? And of course, the main reference is the SDG. And what are the SDG? I just wanted to run a bit quick on that. The SDG, they come from the famous Millennium Development Goal. For the people like me that have been in not-for-profit, we have dealt with them so many times. We use it as reference, we work with them. And the Millennium Development Goal, they expand from the 2015, there were 8 goals. The 17 one, the Sustainable Development Goals, are more inclusive. They're an holistic set of universal goals. And I usually, when I show this, I usually show this slide, because for people, especially if you have to describe to your interior audience, to discuss the whys of your, and you have to garner, sorry? There was something?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. If you have to garner some support from your internal audience, maybe the board for a project, for a transformation, this is a good way to showcase. So they have few SDG that tackle the biosphere. So they tackle what? They tackle the part of the our outer planet, our planet, the water, the life on Earth. Then we have the society. Society is the no anger, gender, so really the human species. And then we have the economy, especially the SDG 8, creation. And then we have the 17, which is an overarching SDG, the partnership for goal. And I really like this slide taken from a paper because it can show how they are all interconnected. So even a project that is mainly focused on the economy, it's working on the attainment of this goal. And you can even work on that, on how and the chain of those. So I find it really, really powerful. And then you will say, yes, of course, we are discussing the SDG. The SDG is the theme. So how this is linked with PMI? So I put there, I know everybody knows the definition. So how this it links? How this links with a project? How this link with what we are doing? How the SDG can be related? And we can say that every project, even at the grassroots level, as you can see, not maybe in a tech farm or something flashy, helps a lot and contributes to one or more SDG. And how? So I want to share one example, and I will try to share even more examples. So one example is something, I put there a picture of one intervention that we did, putting renewable energy in schools in Kenya. We have done a good number of schools. So you can see a very rural settings with the kids playing and the guys putting solar panel. So this is an important factor. So with these simple projects, I mean, it's not that difficult. We had contributed to the 7, to the 8, and then also we addressed the climate ones. So we are targeting holistically a problem that is affecting the community. And it's really important this because, and especially in Africa, because we really need projects in the continent of the future. And in fact, I call Africa the continent of the future for a way. A simple, this is from the IMF, a simple word, it tells us that Africa, it is projected to surge in the population. I don't know if it's very clear from the screen, but it will pass from 9% of the global population to 38% just at the end of the century, and 26% in less than 10 years. And what does it mean? It means that the problems, and especially social problems, environmental problems, they will be even more African problems. We will add 200 million people from here to 2030 only. How we are going to feed them? How we are going to move them? And how we can do it sustainably? Which are the possible? So these open ups, and I always tell also to entrepreneurs, to people, it opens up challenges. Of course, we can look, oh wow, how we can do that. But on the other side, it opens up a lot of opportunities for people, for projects, opportunities that they are trying to solve and work on that. And it is a huge opportunity also for businesses. So the African century is there, but which are the challenges? Which are the problems that they are still facing? And we know the SDG in Africa, they still have a huge importance. And we are not on track on all by 2030. Oh no, we have a lot of poverty, hunger, we have a lot of problem in the health sector, we have still the education issues, the gender inequality, and the biodiversity. While these are problems that they're not peculiar to Africa, because many of those, especially even the education or even the gender inequality and poverty, are also relevant in whatever part of the world. and not talking about the 13, so about the climate. However, here, they have a stronger and powerful need to be resolved. We have still 800 million people living below poverty line. Of course, in the last 20 years, huge steps have been done. However, a lot of work needs to be done. So how we are trying to work as the development side. So there are the entrepreneurs working on the side, the academia working, but also in my part as the NGOs, and which are also the factors that we need to consider. And especially for projects, and many of you, they are dealing with projects, I put 4 important areas that I want to touch, because while for some aspects, a project done and run by an NGO or work or an organization is in a way a bit simpler, maybe to craft, and that maybe you don't have to have products we are not selling. We are in the process of change management. We are in changing behavior. We are trying to solve problems for people. And sometimes to do that, we have to work with communities that have the social economic condition, they have expectation, they have strong cultural factors. So we need really to convince them that some practices, and I will go to example on that, they are helpful. While doing that, we are not tackling with consumers, we are talking with people that are fighting maybe for survival. So the solution they are bringing, they have an important burden, they need to work. They need to be solutions that really empower them, that really bring a change. Otherwise, people will not embrace, because they have a repercussion not only on their income, on others, but on their daily life, on their survival. And it's really tricky, because something that maybe it works fantastically when you are seated, I don't know, in one conference or in London, New York, or whatever, maybe at the community level, it does not work. And you ask yourself, it makes sense. Or why people are cutting trees? Does not make sense to me. They should leave the trees there. Of course. Now, which are the factors why a community goes there? Which are the problems? And those are the factors that when you craft and when you work, you have to take into consideration. And then we try to see how we do it, how we try to do. And I started, and the wonderful question that was sent to me by the PMI team, so it was very nice to see and how to try to respond practically. So how we can apply project management to the problem. And I started with this. No? I want to give an overarching project that we are trying to do, and see how we are putting it into practice, and then we go towards the aspect I've sent there. So one project we are doing is not big, but it's peculiar. It's called the Regenerate project. So what do we want to do? We want to boost milk production through sustainable practices. Some people say, milk? What does it mean? So what is the objective? The objective is conserving and working with the community around the forest area, increasing forestry cover, and working on sustainable land management, improving soil carbon, and therefore improving also income. What we did, what I discussed before, stakeholder, community, and work. So we tried to work and understand the community. Which is the problem? What is the problem now? We have decreasing yields. We have a problem of immense use of biomasses for cooking and cooking, or how do you say it in English? To make warm, your house, your place. So, and then we have a problem that is also leading to a gender problem. We'll discuss that. And we have poor income. So what they do, people, they see the forest as the place to answer their problem. They go and cut the trees. Of course, because I have an issue. It is also a source of income, because when I have a problem, I cut the tree so they can go and sell. And law enforcement is difficult. Although in some areas they're protected, sometimes it's very difficult to enforce. And we have also a problem in the government sense because it cannot fund a lot of rangers. So, for example, in some areas there is a ranger patrolling maybe 10,000 acres, 15,000 acres. So you can see it's quite difficult. So how we work with this community? Which are the problems? So we go inside and say, the first thing is stakeholder management. Which is the problem? How we can apply that? How we can work with you? And the thing is understanding which are the possibility and the wins you can get. So the people say, yes, we understand that if we cut the trees, we will less rains. If we cut the trees, our river, we will have less water. If we cut the trees, water sources are bad. However, I need the tree because otherwise I cannot cook. However, I need the tree because I need to pay the school fees. So you start to write how I can craft that, because it seems a contradiction. And then we try to get this. So to get quick win, and we'll get to that in the stakeholder, to get quick wins, we say, which are the economic activities? Everybody has a cow. Which is a problem with the cow? There is not enough forages. There is low production. Therefore, they don't have a good income to sustain the family. What you can do with the cow? What the cow does? The cow produces manure. What we can do with manure? We can do a circular frame, and then we can put a biogas. And then, therefore, we have crafted a way to change this. So we started working at the fodder level. So we worked with putting trees for fodder. We have worked with the terraces. We have worked with soil management. This will add on soil carbon. We will regenerate the water and will increase production. Production has passed from 2 liters to 6 liters. And we have put biogas. If you put biogas from the manure, what happened? Of course, it has reduced the consumption of firewood for the women, and then we have reduced also a gender problem, because who is going to collect the firewood? A woman. How? Walking. With what? With 15, maybe 20 kilo on their back. So if you put a biogas, you reduce and you take out 1.5 to 2 tons per year from the back of a woman. So you see, this is a way you craft, and then where you put, I put there, I mean, you can read this. It is also, you crafted also and you responded to the question and discussion of SDG in the practical, trying to discuss and work. But the most important is getting the buy-in and ensure that people change. And how you do it? Getting the quick wins and demonstrating that the practices are working. So, as I said here, I will try, but also in the interest time, I will go a bit faster. So, you know, who is the important? The stakeholder. The most important is the community, because the community is the one you are targeting. It's the people that need to change and act. And those are not people that they are working or sitting in the offices. Those are people and farmers there. Level education is low, problem low, but they have challenges, and you need to solve their challenges and touch their interest to work. This is how you have a successful project. I've seen many projects with wonderful planning and ideas and intention, but they were not able to garner the support of the community. And if you don't have that, change is not there. Practices are not there. It becomes preaching, not acting. So, some tips, especially for the culture that I've seen, I put there. Sometimes I will not go through, but I think I put 1 or 2. One is, for example, decision making. It's really like you need to be collaborative. So you don't come with the knowledge in your hands and, you know, I'm giving you the truth. You work together and you are ready to compromise. There was a project, there's also some discussion in my podcast with this and some other experts from WWF discussing that, especially with pastoralist community. You need to involve, even if you come with a project that wants to get women, we need to just have women, because women, we know in pastoral community, are at an inferior, unfortunately, until now position. But you cannot put that and enter with that strongly, you need to work with the leaders, you need to involve men, and you need to bring change from the inside. Otherwise, it will be rejected, even from the same community you want to work. And this is very important. What you want to do is change. Another thing is time perception. I had many people coming, maybe with some visit from Europe. Hey, Samuele, you said we start the meeting at 9. Why in heaven the people have not shown up? Then you start realizing, especially if you work with women groups, what the women do in the morning, what the people do. They have to go and fetch water, maybe fetch firewood, they have to prepare the lunch, they have to prepare. So at 9 o'clock, you cannot convey a meeting. It's from 11. You need to understand. So the conclusion of that guest, oh, the community is not engaged, is not true. It is you that you need to understand how a rural community works. Values. Sometimes it is important to bring change slowly. Especially this is more for the company. For example, in some certification I'm helping to support and others, especially coming from the US and others, some values which are crucial and are important. They cannot be put at the forefront because sometimes they're illegal or sometimes they're not well inserted, but you have to work slowly and within the work. So you try and also bringing change slowly by slowly. Of course, you have also to understand how your communication styles and work. This is also quite normal also in our area, but especially for Kenya, you cannot be very direct. It can be perceived as rude. So work and be indirect and try to be as much as possible, lower yourself and discuss and try to be at the same level of the community. This is the only way. I did a discussion with one of the PMI members in one of the reports of the PMI project management discussion. And this was the key point. You have to make yourself irrelevant and you have to blend yourself. It took me years to understand many of these things. It took me years to get to understand the problems and the way of thinking, but it made me a lot of change. And it helped me a lot. So for example, how we try to incorporate people working all together. These are two pictures. One is regenerative agriculture in the rangeland and working, and the other established. As you see, we have elders, we have women, we have everybody, all the community. And we use elders as also leaders. So the old people there are beacon for the community, are people that are influential, people that, how we can say is the TikTok influencer of that community, is the person who can be the change maker. And we try to work with some. It's not easy because not all will try, but you have, as you do when you do it with your board, you need to have a champion there. When you get your champion, you work on it and you try to use it as a sponsor in your community. It's not as difficult. I mean, it's the different settings, but some of the tips that you use sometimes with your boards and company works the same. Another important part, I will skip this a bit, it is that, of course, in the African context, we have a lot of risk. The geopolitical risk, sometimes I recall I was sitting in a call like this, that was my mom, so I'm less formal, and then I start AK-47 rifles and mortars. So I say, okay, mom, let me hang on, and then let me go out and see. And then there was a coup d'etat ongoing. So, of course, we have social-political risk, we have economic risk. Of course, we know that, especially with the COVID crisis and the Ukraine war, there's a lot of problems. On some of the projects that we are having, especially in the livestock, they have some issues because of that, rising cost of living. However, you try as much as possible to do what is your contingency. Of course, in this part of the world, you have a lot, and especially also the logistics and the infrastructure sometimes can be an issue because, of course, if you have only one road and is swept by the floods, that could be a problem. But we can discuss that. I have plenty of even anecdote on this part. Usually, the part that is really interesting, but we have a lot of work on that. And one question that is really important to me is how we can increase our capability to deliver. How we can increase the capability, for example, to change community, to deliver the SDG, to respond to the problem. And one thing is collaboration with government, NGO, the private sector. I want to tell you something. We have two projects, for example, that I'm working, one on sexual reproductive health and how to foster sexual reproductive health and fight gender-based violence with women in rural community. And the other is more with entrepreneurs. How we do it? We try to partner, of course, not only with the government, but the private sector. Private sector is really important. So for the entrepreneurship project, we work holistically. We work with the academia, with the research, and working, in that case, with farmers to promote practices and improving livestock management, improving forages, improving nutrition. We work with the private sector, with a bank, with a big bank in Italy. We want to create an ecosystem to facilitate farmers, even though when they have more production, where they can put, how they can become bankable, how they can do investment. Of course, the project, we all know that, especially for NGO, is tightened by donor restrictions, so we cannot do everything. So we need to leverage, and scalability is usually an important part. And the work with the private sector, it's really important. So we're trying to work to create this. There is also, I put there is also a new line of financing for NGO, but even for the outcome-based financing. So where you price, and the outcome, in this case, would be a transformation, and some lenders and institutions, they finance you. So this is also a way also to show the change in the work. So we always, in our work, what we have seen, the first thing is working holistically with all the stakeholders. The local NGO are really also important because they give you access to the community, they give you insight, they are also part of that. You need also to vet them, because we all know that this is also a business, and sometimes you have people that have not been transparent. So you have to ensure higher level of transparency and higher level of profitability. We always vet our partners, and we have trial projects and run with them to see their capability and work. So by doing that, putting all together, it's really avoids the silos approach that some of the projects, especially in development, had. My own small community, my own small project, my NGO, while opening up and bringing on board different areas. Another one on the sexual reproductive health, I mentioned, we are working with startups, trying to work with behavioral nudges and data collection and analytics to work with women to really foster change. Especially, we are talking about 15 to 30 years old. So it is not the usual way, but you need to use technology and work to reach them. And that's why the importance of having startups and work, and the impact of the new social media, but also other specific application to work with them and gather insight and share and really foster behavioral change in that way. Another important part that we have seen, it is, you have seen also, even in project, we have data, we have a lot of AI. We'll put a slide there with some small project we are trying to put on that. The IoT going everywhere, even, and you will see where, on trees in Africa. And then we have also the big shift, sustainability and the discussion. And the most important things, as I said, is that more and more, even the donor and the work will be more localized. Localized would mean that it will be more proximal and more near to the population. So that's why also in our organization, we are creating and working in fostering local partners and local organization to be at the forefront. I sometimes say that our work, specifically in development, is to make ourselves irrelevant. So it's a long path, but in some areas we manage. For example, in one project that we did in tourism, we work with the community, and then after 6 years, we left them, and then we are still working with them. And we have seen the transformation, the small enterprises, the eco-lodge, and the work, which after now, it's almost now 7-8 years that we have not worked with them, giving them money, but just some support and follow-up. We have seen that it has scaled and has created. And this was done also thanks to the work and the collaboration and the strong approach on capacity building, because as you say, we have to make ourselves irrelevant. And in fact, on that, I want to show, then we go on that, on the fast things that we discussed, the IoT and everything. This is another project we have done with some guys at the university. They just wonderful, talented guys from the University of Nairobi that they came out. And we tried to leverage IoT and then sensor on something that is not really common. Beehives management, which is also another important part on how you create income from forest and work. So we had created, which a sort of prototype, is an less that's an MVP, but it still is working, and we have deployed around 100 now of smart beehive to collect data, swarm management, temperature, also anti-theft measure, from man or animals. So we are now trying to employ that, and also we are working on traceability, both with QR codes or data, so to try to foster and to incorporate technology even at the rural level. This is also a strong unlocking opportunity to solve issues and the problem that we discussed at the beginning, the rising population, the SDG in Africa, will also create an opportunity for work and entrepreneurship, especially for countries like Kenya. And then the big, sometimes I'm asked, hey, yes, okay, very nice, wonderful, the forest, wonderful, the women, wonderful, the girls, but how we can do that? No, how we can get the funding, how we can work with that, which are the benefits. And I always say how you can craft a good project. I always use this metaphor, to be like a cook. You have to have different and pull different ingredients to create a project that is aligned to 3 areas. One is the community requirement, and for me is the most important, because those are the beneficiaries, the people you are working with. If they are not on board, if you are not trying to solve their problem, if you are not discussed with them, if you don't have their backing, even if you have a wonderful project that the donor like, and it touches all the fancy moods or the new stuff that some donors like, even if it touches all your organization, it is liked by the director, is liked by the board, is liked by everybody, but if the community are not on board, you will never succeed. And sometimes it's getting more and more difficult. I have to be honest, because maybe donors, they have a lot of requirements in some areas. They want maybe very flashy projects. They don't want traditional ones. And you have to be very good in mixing the ingredients and working towards that and achieving that, a successful proposal, putting all together. But for me, the community is the base. If you don't solve the problem of the community, you will never solve the issue. You will never contribute to the SDG. You will never act towards an act. Your project will never be successful, even if you have all the other backings, because they need to accept you. They need to be on board. They need to be also willing to change, and they need to be willing, especially for practices like FGM or others, they need to be willing to change and transform their behavior. It's not easy. Another important part is, of course, sustainability. We need to scale and be sustainable and work. And for sustainability, I use that. I know we have 2 minutes. I finish because I was also to have some part for questions. I have 10 minutes for questions. Always have quick wins. As I say, you need to have something that gives quick wins, momentum, people that are on board. So, for example, for the women to embrace our biogas, to embrace our practices, you see the biogas, very simple settings. But for that particular woman, Beatrice, that's her name, it means she's no longer going to the forest. She no longer have to walk. She no longer have to do. She just have to light the fire. Do you think who will be your ambassador with other women? Me? The project? No. They will listen to me or to her? So, and that is how you foster change within community. And the other one is the economic part. So we did training and knowledge sharing. An important part is also the discussion how to create. So with the milk and the work we are doing, we had a lot of training on how to create cheese and work. So this is a picture, a very simple training on how to do. One is the trainer, and one is one of the youth, the 20 youth that we have trained. People that now are able to do and make a living out of it, buying from farmers, maybe not only directly, but also with a better price for the farmers. So they create a win-win solution for the farmers. They use our practices, sustainable practices. They have better soil carbon, they have a better income, and also opportunity for the youth. They don't have to migrate from the mountain area to go to Nairobi or other area, where sometimes it's also prone to crime. The internal migration is also a problem, and they have opportunities to work on their land, develop, and use the skills. So you can see, and that is how you get people on board. You have these quick wins, this appealing part. That is, of course, a way you get the transformation. An important part, I go skip a bit far, is the capacity that's irrelevant. And we do it in all sorts of settings. In a more formal settings, we are like us. I mean, here we are doing online, there we are doing sitting around a round table with the traditional projector and the PowerPoint and the training. Maybe this one was with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Livestock, but also on the rural setting with people going deep in the community. There it is a mountain area, I mean 2,800 meters above sea level, and this forested area, discussing with women of their problem, which are the challenges, garner insights, and working with them to train. If you do that, and again, it is a way to build their capacity and also create what I usually call the trainer of trainers, people that can be your ambassador and people in the community that they foster change. And so if you have good impacts, as we discussed, we have monitoring, you have to check the SDG, you have to do a lot of capacity building, scalability. And let me go first on that. And one thing that I was asked to ask is, if you do only one thing, I mean, as in the discussion that we had, and the manifesto of the summit is act. The time for acting is now. I think theory we all have. Now it's time to act, even from whichever areas. And this is also where I linked with my other work. So in whichever area, in whichever geography, act, learn, trying to get involved, join, discuss. And in the project management, in your daily work, how can I affect SDG? How my actions are aligned? Or are the action of my company aligned or no? And if no, how I can change? I know it's not easy because, of course, maybe you don't have decisional power. You don't have the power inside. But power is not only a position. It's also coming from the idea and the discussion and bringing together. If you have critical mass and discussion, you can always convince people, backed also with strong backing, because now we know that if you act also towards a more sustainable planet, of course, also the bottom line will be affected. I've done plenty of research on that. I have interviewed 90 companies on that, so I'm pretty sure, and it's backed by my own discussion. So I want to thank you so much for listening. I hope I have not bored you and then I'm really eager to hear your question, because I think dialogue is the most important part to discuss and see.
That was amazing, Samuel. I think the examples you gave really bring home the message that you're saying about actions, small actions and big actions. And you've really made that point clear. We have some great questions from the audience. One of them is about, let's see if Ruth or Guillermo is going to put up the questions on the board here, because then we'll leave with that. One of the questions I had for you was about training and impact. Generally, when you train and train the trainer, which is something you've talked about, you end up with another kind of level increase based on the kinds of impact you're making. People get more confidence. They become natural leaders in their community. Are you seeing those kinds of, let's call them benefits, side benefit outcomes?
Definitely. I mean, I can tell you a story of one young lady. This was with our work on with the women. So this lady refused FGM. she was deemed outcast by the community. The father and the mother stopped talking to her. And however, she never gave up. So she wanted to be a change. She have seen the problem, the health problem connected with FGM. She have seen the humiliation and especially the health issues with her sister. And we all know the problems that the practice make. And she said, I want to change. So we trained them, we discussed with her, and slowly by slowly, she became a beacon for change with the women. Now she also came with us at COP to discuss and see. We have gave also an audience to discuss and see. And really, we have seen the impact that is bringing towards. So from that small example of person, now we have in school more than 20 girls that say, hey, we want to be actors of change. We want to be us. And even they've created their own group. They go themselves. We still support a bit, but they go themselves in the school. They go themselves to distribute from sanitary pads to discussing the basics. I recall some session where I was not even part because I'm a man. So they discuss. So they go with pen and paper under an acacia tree discussing which is the physiology of a female human body, which are the problems, and educating. And they doing it with their own language, their own culture, and this is bringing transformation. So that's why I really believe, and it's really bringing a lot of change. And especially in that part of FGM, it's really working. It's not Samuele Tini, it's the people in the community. Liz, I cannot hear you.
Pardon me. And what you show is true sustainability, because what you are is maybe the pebble that starts the avalanche of these young women taking control of their own lives and their own ability to understand and grow in the community. We have a question also from Enrico, which I thought was very interesting. How does the government, national or local, offer incentives to residents, brokers, contractors, commercial developers, or retrofit properties in line with sustainability? So in other words, how do the local agencies assist you in your work, make those communities better?
That's important. I mean, mainly how we work. Mainly we work with 3 lines. One line is the traditional donor. So mainly it is the Italian government or other European government, EU or other government, USA and others, which is the bulk. Then we have private donation and CSR, growing CSR. But more and more also the local government is trying to step up. For a lot of, let us say for the past maybe 10, 15 years, we have acted as substitution for some time. We have offered services because the government didn't have the capability and the possibilities. We are trying to work, however, together with the government, bringing together the official and the one. However, maybe there is only one, for example, agricultural officer, one health officer. In always our trainings, there is that nurse. And then we always say, even if in the whole county, there is one sexual and reproductive health officer, this is the lady. And if you want to talk, go to talk to her. If you want to talk family planning, we are not allowed, but she's allowed. If you want family planning, talk to her. She can provide for free because that is but of course, if you don't bring, what we do, we bring service delivery on the table and we use in a way, we foster and we help. A lot needs to be done, of course, on how to work and to foster policies. And so also that's why the more you also get the private sector into it and you see opportunities that can make profit out of it, you can get more transformation and scalability. So you cannot only work with aid, but you also need to have this strong part on business.
And related to that, the Beehive initiative that you talked about, how is that scalable? How is that process scalable? Is that through the support of not-for-profits? Is that a profitability issue? Because that was a great idea.
So, sorry, come again, you cut?
The Beehive app initiative.
Okay, the one with the one we are working, that is called Triggerize. So so no, my pronunciation. So born in Africa pronunciation, so Italian African pronunciation. So apologies for that, but no, it's a really, we are trying to work with them because it's an idea on how to create also bringing service delivery, bringing providers. So that is the income generating part, but also putting all together and maybe a subsidized price. Because if community, they don't, one of the things is the gap. I have an issue. I want family planning. I want an anticonceptive. I want, for example, to understand more about my menstrual health. Where I go, I'm in the village. So there may be the center is there. So where I can go, which are the providers, which are the people I can talk. And the government subsidize a lot as people on the ground. As for example, I am a victim of gender-based violence. In every police station by law, there should be a policewoman that is acting on that. Do we have the contact in a village? No. So those are the things that how we can use and leverage technology. These are at the village level. At the city level, which are the behaviors and the work? Of course, there we are trying to, it's a way also to create awareness and also to reach population. Sometimes we have a big knowledge gap and awareness gap in communities and within people. And this is a way to move. And the app is also a way to put it in that part and to support and really also try to get an opportunity for businesses to jump on board.
Thank you. I think that point about scalability is so important. Guillermo, do you have other questions?
Yes, we do. We have one in the Q&A. So what strategies can be implemented to improve project management skills among African leaders to drive change in local communities?
Very, very good question. I think sometimes our discussion with our leaders, I think in Africa we have the most talented people I ever encountered and communities. They need to be flourished. Sometimes the factors that hinder delivery, project management and work, they are not in knowledge or skills, sometimes are factors beyond that. So that's why I am a person that always try to, for example, how we do. One of the issues that we have in Kenya is a strong tribalism that everybody knows 2006, 2007 events. Sorry, 2007, 2008 events. So what we are trying to do, we try to create a mixed team. Even people from all sorts of background, all sorts of tribes, to create together and go about, oh, this is my, especially during political time, this creates problems. So we are trying to do that. Another important part, it is enhancing and fostering transparency and accountability. This is the most important skills because, and also we are trying to do with technology. We have all the technology now, softwares and things, because with that, I mean, sometimes we know the sun, it is the better disinfectant. But I have, you know, before I was in a discussion about entrepreneur, I was in another conference this morning about climate change, entrepreneurship, and discussing talented mind. The problem that came up is like, how our policies, how our taxation, how are the incentives done, how things, you know, because one thing is how we can work on that is that make them aware, people and leaders aware, and also remove the stumbling blocks on the line. And especially, but I have a strong feeling that the new generation are becoming more demanding and less bounded by the traditional lines, no, of alliances, allegiance, and war. So it's a working process. I know that it's not easy, and we found sometimes things on the back, but I say, and then accountability and transparency. This is the way to go. This is the way to go because that is how you get, you can deliver. And that's also that is why, for example, the outcome-based strategy, the outcome-based financing is a strong and powerful because you're no longer targeting on activities but on the outcome, and that is a mental shift. I really like because you need to get this outcome, not just hey, I have distributed 100 mosquito nets. No, I need. Are those guys using them? Because I have seen a project. I mean, I can give. I mean, there was a condom distribution. I mean, talking about 10 years ago, and then people, they were using it to do like balloons. So, and this was many years ago in a very rural community. And I have examples. So are they using, for example, the mosquito nets? Which is the change? And many other. Mosquito nets is quite easy, but, it's not the output, it's the outcome.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I know that Guillermo also really, that so resonated. I want to appreciate all the people we had online and those of you listening to the replay. And again, remember that you can check out the 3 times a month podcast from Samuel on sustainability journey. We should be listening to that because we need to support the work that's happening in Africa today. We already heard from Samuel, it's a tipping point, and by 2030, they're going to be an even bigger force in the whole population of the world. Thank you, Samuel, for your time, your intelligence, and your energy for the passion of your topic. And thank all of you.
Thank you so much. And then if the people want to connect, my LinkedIn is there, and then we can discuss. I'm very willing to discuss and chat. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you again. And see you all after the break.